Hi guys, words can't express how excited I am about our first video podcast for Emunah La-Paz. Whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcast channels, thank you so much for your support. Where we left off was on 1 Samuel. So I honestly believe the stories of the Bible reflect on life today. In some ways or another, we go through the same feelings or sometimes the same scenarios as these characters have gone through. And that is what actually motivated me to want to go through the entire Bible through a podcast. And to be honest, it doesn't change. It just needs to be modified in today's time without changing the lessons. None of us are getting out of this life alive. You know, we all have a beginning and an end. And I think there's certain parts in this life, a lot of parts in this life that we don't understand. I do feel that the Bible has answers to it, and I would just love to go through these stories. If you have any questions, please leave it under the comments.
So where do we start when it comes to the Bible? A thing that really sticks out the most is jealousy. The devil's jealousy over God. And then going on to Adam and Eve, who were tricked by the devil into believing they could be like God. Then it moves on to the first murder, Cain killing Abel. A demon that must be fought against that plagues mankind is jealousy, as well as the need for faith to overcome all things. So I do believe in a childlike method. It's the best way for me to explain the Bible. So I do use the Golden Children's Bible for some of my references.
Samuel ended up passing away. And as it says here, Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together to laminate him. And they buried him in the house of Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. There was a man in Maon who owned a land in Carmel. His name was Nabal, of the house of Caleb, and he was very rich, and he had 3,000 goats and 1,000 sheep. And his sheep were being shorn in Carmel.
Nabal's wife was called Abigail, and she was very beautiful. Now, David was actually running out of food for his men, and he needed some help trying to sustain his lifestyle in the wilderness. So he asked his men to go over and speak to Nabal and tell him that, hey, we've been watching over your flock, your sheep as well, and if you could provide our men with bread and water so that we can sustain our lifestyle here out in the wilderness. So the men went and asked Nabal, his advisors, hey, can we have some bread and food and water to help sustain us? And this is coming from David. Well, Nabal got a little, being the way that he is, mouthy. And he told them no. He said, I already have men that are watching over. They're the men that shave my sheep. Why should I even bother with David? I never asked him to do that. So that's not my problem. And so they went back and returned this message to David. And this made David livid. Now, most likely David was just exhausted. He knew he was supposed to be king. He was just tired of this living in the wilderness and probably very sad about Samuel. So he just snapped. And I think he took around 400 men and left a couple behind. And you can always, you guys research that for me and leave that in the comments. But he was not having it. So as he was on his way to actually take Nabal out for being so disingenuous, the word got back to Abigail, and she knew and heard of David, so she knew what he was capable of doing. So she quickly got together some loaves of bread and donkeys and put the water and sent it on their way. And she traveled behind the herd because she was extremely afraid of what David was about to do. So she reached out to him, and she apologized and said, I'm sorry, once she arrived there. And David said, I forgive you, and you're very smart, because I was definitely on my way to take out your husband.
So she went back to the house, and Nabal was having some kind of feast or party, and he was very drunk.